Hi, and welcome to the Redikall series. So, today we are going to talk about how we can steer our life towards our highest and the best and put our best foot forward with an attitude of surrender. So, what is surrender here? Surrender here in today's topic implies surrendering to the higher intelligence with full faith. Now, the higher intelligence can be maybe a collective consciousness for you. It could be the divine consciousness. It could be the universal consciousness. So, for us, it could be different names for few of us. So, let me explain this with an example so that it kind of registers. So, I'll take an example of a child who's trying to fix a toy. So, the child is busy trying to fix that toy and in front of the parent, who's then see how the child is trying to struggle, put in all the efforts, and then the parent is patiently waiting for the child to then surrender and give the toy to the parent to be able to give the guidance and resolve it or fix it through a higher perspective. Now, this example is now similar to what I was talking before. So, we are that child who is trying to fix a certain event, a situation, or a challenge in our life. And the higher intelligence is looking at all our efforts, looking at our struggle, and is actually patiently waiting for us to surrender so that we can actually get all the aware guidance and the solution from a higher perspective. So it's not that it's not okay to fix things, right? It's okay to try and fix things in life, and we do that all the time. However, when we surrender to the higher intelligence, what we can do is we avail amazing intervention and assistance that can help us move forward in life with ease and grace, and that can help us put our best foot forward in all aspects of our life. So let me go deeper. Hi everyone. Thank you. So let me go deeper. So when things happen in our life, it could be an event, an experience. Some of us think of it as a challenge. We use our intelligence, we use our expertise, skills, resources, money, power, and everything to resolve it. And a lot of times we are able to resolve it. But sometimes there are certain situations or experiences that we have done as much as we could with our mighty intelligence. We have done the best of our capacity. We have put in all our efforts. We have maybe used money, power, help, support from everywhere possible. Even in the purview of free will, you may have even changed and shifted things to suit your free will. But sometimes, in spite of doing all of this, in some aspects of your life, you're not able to influence the course of action. So this, all of us resonate with. It's maybe happening to some of us in certain aspects, whether at work, whether in relationships, whether it is with financial health, or it could be your ideas, visions, or dreams. Now here you have two paths that you can take. You can continue using the powerful mind to try and fix it, and there's nothing wrong in that. Now there's another path, which is surrendering to the higher intelligence and then availing the guidance and solution and then acting based on that guidance. So today I'm going to share why we could actually try the second path, and why and what are the benefits of actually choosing the second path, which is the path of surrender. So we need to understand a few things. That the first is that before, when we are born, we come here with a blueprint. It's like you've heard of blueprints. Architects work on work with blueprints. So there's already a predetermined blueprint on which the building is then made. So similarly, when we are born, we come with a basic blueprint, and there are certain events and certain experiences which have been pre-planned and have been designed with a brilliance, and it is meant for us to experience it, for us to learn from it, and that is the way we are going to evolve in this life. But what happens is that we have a limited awareness, we have a limited consciousness, and we have a limited knowing. So what we try and do is, we do not understand this, these events that have been pre-planned for us. We try and change them, reject them, escape them. They are like these. So I'll give an example. These are basically like how you have pillars and columns of a building or a monument. They're very important. You don't need to remove them. You cannot or disturb them, because that will bring the whole building down. So certain experiences and circumstances are the basic foundations of our life, just like those pillars. We don't need to disturb them, or we don't need to remove them. What we need to do is understand the brilliance in them. But how do we understand the brilliance with a limited knowingness? We only know a fraction of the larger picture. We do not know the entire bigger picture or the bigger plan, because we have a limited consciousness. And even if we try to know, today we are not so evolved to be able to interpret the larger plan for us. Now the higher intelligence is aware of the entire bigger picture, is aware of the bigger plan, and is aware and has an overview of your life plan also. It is obviously aware of all your life events and your essential experiences that you are needed to go through for your learning. Correct? So it is important somewhere that we align and surrender to the higher intelligence, not out of resignation, but to get actually the solution and the guidance that will help us towards the highest and the best. Otherwise, what we do is, we do not understand the brilliance behind a certain thing that we are facing, which we are trying to resolve, and all that we do is 3-4 things. We try and reject it, try and escape it, or we try and struggle very hard to try and fix it. And that can waste a lot of energy, time, resource, and a lot of things. So when we surrender, so the path of surrender, where we surrender to the higher consciousness and somewhere we align to the higher intelligence, we start gradually see the brilliance in all the events that are happening. And we become aware of that. Once you become aware of the brilliance, you'll be surprised that you start feeling more peaceful and you'll feel more calmer, because we suffer because of our response to a situation and the way we perceive a situation. When we start getting aware of the brilliance, you start calming down. You don't suffer, you don't feel that kind of anger or the kind of helplessness or all these negative emotions. That is number one. Life becomes easier. Second is that you also, the solutions that come from the higher intelligence, right, helps you to move towards your highest and the best. Also, somewhere you're looked after in the wisest possible manner when you surrender. And you are taken care of, you are provided for. Aligning also to the higher consciousness helps you understand and become aware of yourself, become aware of your relationship dynamics, your dynamics with money, through greater insight. So surrendering to the higher intelligence could make your life actually more easy, more simple, more graceful, more joyful than not surrendering actually. So surrendering here is not about escape, it's not resignation. There's a difference in surrendering with faith and inner strength and resigning. So let me share with you that how can we truly surrender. So the first is that which are real steps that we can take. So obviously there is a whole element of divine blessing and divine intervention and divine timing. But in our own space, we can start somewhere working on an everyday basis to walk this path. Right? And the path that is, the first is to work with radical techniques to emotionally work with your emotional charges and emotionally neutralize yourself. Because interestingly, we have always been connected to the higher intelligence when we are born. And we start losing that connectivity as we growing up because of this baggage of emotions and because of these unhealthy beliefs and rules. So when we start working with all of them, somewhere we start becoming more neutral. We also work with your insecurities, we work with the inhibitions, the doubts, the resistance to surrender. And that's when you start opening this is the first step where you start opening up and reconnecting back to the higher intelligence and surrendering to the higher intelligence. Then what we do is also work with deepening your faith, because only persistent and consistent faith can help you surrender. And to have that kind of faith that you are going to be guided to your highest and the best. And to have faith in your own good fortune. And to have faith that there is a wisdom and a brilliance behind everything you face in life. And most important is to have faith in yourself and in the divine. So then gradually when you become very neutral and you start reconnecting back to the higher intelligence, what happens is you start getting in that neutral space or in that meditative space, you start getting inner guidance, which is basically an intervention from the higher intelligence, which is giving you guidance and solution towards a certain aspect of your life. Now you need to trust that guidance, because sometimes the guidance can be very illogical and you just don't see the rationale in following it. But that's where you need to start trusting and having faith in that inner guidance that you get in that space of neutrality, in that space of absolute, when you in that absolute stillness and in that meditative space, and then to put your best foot forward and act on it. And then you will start gradually seeing positive shifts in your life. And you will start seeing positive transformation in your life. So remember one thing, that we are not surrendering because we do not have faith in our own ability. Why are we surrendering? We are surrendering because we somewhere have greater faith in the guidance received from the higher intelligence. Because the higher intelligence has the knowingness of the bigger plan. And that then makes our life much more simpler. So the whole, a lot of radical students use life is simple, life is effortless, life is a lot of fun, actually then becomes true. So that is why we are trying to walk the path of surrender. So if any of you are going through relationship issues and you've tried a lot to try and fix it or try and resolve it, maybe you can look at it from this perspective of surrendering to the higher consciousness. Where somewhere you can, it's like the higher consciousness knows what you're going through, knows your problems, knows your efforts, but also knows the solution. And when you surrender with full faith and strength, you can avail of that guidance that can help you steer that relationship challenge in a different way and then resolve it. And sometimes even if that guidance is illogical, try and follow it. Trust it. I'll give a very thank you for all the hearts, everyone. Thank you so much. There's a simple way to know whether the guidance is from the inner guidance, or there is the guidance coming from some other your other inhibitory voices. There's no charge when you get that guidance. Your body is absolutely peaceful. That's one of the thing. There are many other ways which we can share maybe in the workshop or something. Then it comes to money. So I want to share before we actually do the recitation to be able to start surrendering is want to share about money. So if you look around, there are many absolutely financial wizards and advisors who are very good advisors when it comes to money, but are still not the richest or the wealthiest people in the world. And that is something which all of us know. And some of you would have also tried to work towards getting financial stability or financial security in your life with all your skill sets, with all the education and the knowledge. But let me tell you one thing, that to understand the consciousness of money, you need to see it from a greater consciousness. And somewhere our consciousness is still limited. So to understand the consciousness of money, you need to align to the greater intelligence to even be able to understand how to attract abundance or align abundance in your life. Like some of you would have been noticing that in spite of all the wisdom and all the skill sets, you have not been able to predict the nature or the course of action of money in your life. And that the unpredictable nature of money makes you extremely insecure and makes you very vulnerable. And sometimes even if you have a lot of wealth, you still feel insecure in life. That's something that a lot of us are going through, especially in today's time. So how about trying the path of surrender, where you surrender to the higher consciousness, to be able to avail the guidance and the solution and awareness about the consciousness of money. And then you can steer your life in the right direction with that guidance, and then to act based on that intervention or that assistance that you get from the alignment to the higher intelligence and in the process of surrender. I'll also like to share that for people who are going through trying to do a new startup, a new business, or have a dream or some vision that they've been wanting to implement, try and surrender it to the higher consciousness. And then work with the guidance you receive in that state of surrender and in the state of absolute reconnected alignment to the higher consciousness. And then you will be surprised how you are able to actually steer that entire project of yours in absolutely the right direction, which is meant for your highest and for your best. So let us truly begin this path of surrendering. So today we are going to do some recitation for walking towards the path of surrender. So please close your eyes and sit comfortably. Okay. Yes. And repeat with me. I R5, my need for faith. I R5, my need for faith. I R5, my need for faith. I R5, my resistance to surrender. 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 R5, my need for constant surrender. R5, my need to constantly 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 surrender. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. R5, my need to surrender to the higher consciousness. And the affirmation for today is, I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. The last time, I surrender to the higher consciousness with full faith, strength and awareness. So let us walk and begin this journey of truly surrendering to the higher consciousness. And once again, not because we do not have faith in our own ability or a capacity to resolve things, but we have greater faith in the greater guidance and the solutions that come from the higher consciousness. And that makes our life much more easy, effortless, and truly fun.